The silence hit harder than the sirens ever could. Jaden's voice still echoed in the humid air, defiant, trembling, but standing. Becky Hollingsworth blinked as if she had just been slapped, retreating behind her sense of entitlement like a shield. Her arms dropped, her mouth opened, but no words came. Sergeant Dunn held his phone higher, forcing his partner to look. "There," he said again, his voice low but clear. "That's my son. That's Ethan. And that's Jaden, the kid who's been helping him pass math all year." Officer number 1 glanced at the photo. His jaw clenched. His hand dropped from his weapon, but his eyes still burned with skepticism. "You're saying this kid's not a threat?" he asked. "I'm saying he's a 15-year-old walking home," Dunn snapped. "That should have been obvious." Jaden's hands were still half raised. Can I put my arms down now?" he asked, the sarcasm barely covering the hurt. Dunn nodded. "You're good, Jaden." The teen dropped his arms, his chest heaving, his pulse still racing from the near disaster. He looked between the two officers, then at Becky. Her gaze darted away, no apology in sight. "I'm calling the HOA," she muttered. "You already called the cops," Jaden said, voice sharp. "What more do you want? Blood?" That stopped her, and for the first time, Becky didn't have a comeback. Ethan came running down the street, backpack half-zipped, panic on his face. "Jaden!" he shouted. "My mom said there were cops. What happened?" Jaden turned, eyes softening. "Just your neighbor mistaking skin for sin." Ethan looked at the squad cars. "You okay?" Jaden nodded, but slowly. "I will be." Sergeant Dunn took a breath. "Go home, boys. Both of you." Ethan hesitated. "Are you gonna talk to her?" Dunn glanced at Becky. "I'm gonna do more than talk." He watched the two teens walk off, one still shaking, one visibly furious. When they turned the corner, he faced Becky. "You ever stop to ask why you assumed the worst?" "I know what I saw," she said. "He was acting suspicious." "You saw a kid in a hoodie," Dunn said. "In the summer." She didn't respond. He stepped closer. "You're lucky it was me who showed up. You could have gotten that boy killed." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening me?" "No," he said. "But you should think about why a teenager tying his shoe made you reach for a phone instead of your decency." She turned and walked back inside without another word, slamming the door. Dunn sighed. Officer number 1 shook his head. "You going soft, Mike?" Dunn's gaze darkened. "You think this is about softness?" "I think you forgot whose side you're on." Dunn walked up to him steady. "I'm on the side that keeps kids alive." The younger officer didn't respond, but the line was drawn. Later that night, Jaden sat on his porch steps, hoodie off now, earbuds in. His mother sat beside him, silent. Her hand rested over his, squeezing it just enough to remind him he wasn't alone. "You sure you're okay?" she asked. He nodded, but his eyes were somewhere far away. "I'm tired," he said. "I know, baby. Of walking like I'm guilty. Of breathing like it's a crime." She didn't answer right away. Then, "They want you tired. But you don't give them that power." Jaden looked up. What do I give them? She smiled faintly. Your brilliance, your focus, your future. That's the protest. His phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. My dad's pissed. He wants to talk tomorrow. Says there's more going on. Jaden frowned. What does that mean? The next day, Jaden and his mom sat in Sergeant Dunn's office at the precinct. A few officers watched them enter, some curious, others hostile. Dunn motioned them inside and shut the door behind them. He didn't sit. I owe you both an apology, he said. Jaden's mom folded her arms. You stopped it from getting worse. That's more than most. Dunn shook his head. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. Jaden leaned forward. Why are we here, Sergeant? Dunn hesitated. Because what happened yesterday isn't isolated, and it's not over. He opened a file on his desk. Inside were pages of incident reports, arrests, calls, all tied to the same neighborhood, all with the same pattern. Black teens being stopped, searched, reported, he said. No charges, no crimes, just calls, lots of them. Jaden's mom scanned the papers. Becky? Dunn nodded. And a few others. He looked at Jaden. Your name's not the first, but I want it to be the last. Jaden frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying there's a pattern, and someone needs to speak out. Jaden's mom narrowed her eyes. What are you really asking? Dunn leaned in. I'm asking if you'd be willing to give a statement, file a formal complaint. We can open an internal investigation. Jaden froze. His mom spoke first. That'll paint a target on his back. I'll protect him, Dunn promised. With what? She said. The same badge that nearly cuffed him? The tension grew thick. Jaden looked at the papers again. Kids just like him. Faces just as scared. Then he looked at Dunn. You said I was family. You are. Then act like it. I'm trying. Jaden stood. Good, because I don't want to be another name on a report. I want to be the reason it stops. He turned to his mother. She gave the smallest nod. Let's file it. As they left the precinct, a black SUV pulled up across the street. Two men in dark suits sat inside. One wore sunglasses, the other held a tablet. They watched Jaden and his mom walk away. One tapped the screen, zooming in on the teen's face. Looks like we've got a talker, the man with the tablet said. The other man cracked his knuckles. Then it's time someone reminded him who's really in charge. Jaden's voice rang clear through the small press conference room at City Hall. I wasn't doing anything wrong, he said, standing beside his mother and Sergeant Dunn. But wrong still found me. The cameras clicked. Reporters leaned forward. Behind them, community members filled the seats. Neighbors, teachers, classmates. Even Ethan sat in the front row, hands clenched in his lap. Jaden held up a printed copy of the complaint. This isn't just about me. This is about the system that let it keep happening. The calls, the assumptions, the silence. He looked directly at the mayor. You say you want safer neighborhoods? Start by making sure everyone in them feels safe. A pause, then applause. His mother touched his back gently. He exhaled. The fear hadn't left, but it had finally stopped controlling him. Sergeant Dunn stepped forward next. "We failed him, but today we take responsibility." He turned to the crowd. "Starting now, there will be a full investigation into patterns of bias in neighborhood complaints. We'll reevaluate our response protocols and expand bias training across every precinct. But more importantly," he glanced at Jaden, "we'll start listening." The mayor nodded stiffly. "We'll hold our departments accountable," she added. "This is not just about reform, it's about trust." Outside, the sun shone harder than it had all week. A small crowd gathered by the steps as Jaden exited the building. Some offered hugs, others gave nods. Someone handed him a cold bottle of Gatorade. "Hero," someone whispered. Jaden flinched. "I'm not." His mom smiled at him. "You were brave. That's close enough." But across the street, parked just out of sight behind a delivery truck, the black SUV idled. The two men in suits, the same ones from before, watched through tinted windows. "You sure he's just a kid?" asked the one in sunglasses. The other flipped through a file. "He just gave the city a black eye. That makes him a problem." "Want me to make a call?" "Number, we'll do this one quiet." He closed the file. "Let's visit Becky Hollingsworth." 2 days later, Becky was crying, not the performative tears she used to deflect accountability. These were different. Her hands shook as she sat in her living room, blinds half closed, makeup smudged. "He came to the door asking questions," she said. "Said he was from Neighborhood Watch." She looked at Dunn. "But there's no Neighborhood Watch anymore. I helped shut it down last year." Dunn leaned forward. "What did he ask you?" "About the complaint, if I was the one who made the call." She wiped her eyes. "Then he said I sparked something dangerous." Jaden's mother stood behind him, arms crossed. "And now you're scared?" Becky didn't answer. Jaden spoke calmly. "What did he look like?" She hesitated. "White, maybe 40s, dark hair, wore black gloves, even though it was hot." Dunn cursed under his breath. "I know who that is." Jaden turned. "Who?" Dunn picked up his phone. "Someone who used to work federal surveillance, quiet contracts, internal suppression." He dialed. "If he's here, this goes deeper than Becky. Someone wants this complaint buried." Jaden's mom frowned. "You think they're coming for us?" "No," Dunn said. "I think they already have." Later that night, Jaden's laptop crashed mid-paper. The screen went black. His phone buzzed, a strange unknown number. He answered it. A digitized voice said, "Keep talking, and next time, it won't be your computer." The line cut. He stared at the screen, stunned. Downstairs, the front porch creaked. He ran to his mother's room. "Someone's outside." She didn't ask how he knew. She grabbed her phone and quietly called Dunn. Within minutes, headlights cut through the night. Dunn pulled up in an unmarked cruiser, stepping out with his gun holstered, but his posture ready. "Stay inside," he told Jaden and his mom. He approached the porch. No one. But there, pinned to the railing, was a photo. It was from the police barbecue months ago. Jaden, Ethan, and Dunn. A red X was scrawled across Jaden's face. The next morning, Dunn made a decision. He pulled strings, reached out to contacts, and got access to security feeds from traffic cams near Becky's block. There it was, the black SUV, no plates, but distinct. He ran it through a private database. Hit, owned by a shell company, one tied to a contractor known for quiet containment. He paced his office. They're not just trying to scare him, they're trying to make him disappear. He picked up the phone. Get me the state attorney, now! 2 days later, a town hall broadcast. The room was packed again, but this time, so was the air, heavy with tension. A special task force had been formed. The mayor stood beside the state attorney, flanked by officers from internal affairs. Dunn stepped up to the mic. There was an attempt to intimidate a minor. There was tampering with digital evidence, surveillance, and threats made to both the victim and his family. He looked directly at the camera. And that threat came not from a neighbor, but from within the system. Gasps. Reporters fired questions. Jaden sat quietly in the crowd. His mother's hand found his. Are we safe now? He whispered. She didn't answer right away. Then, you were never the one who needed to hide. Weeks later, Jaden walked into his school library. A teacher waved him over to a small group. Younger kids, all black or brown, sitting cross-legged. Tell them what you said, the teacher whispered. Jaden looked down at the wide eyes, waiting. He smiled faintly. I'm not here to scare you, he said. I'm here to show you how to stand. One kid raised his hand. What if they try to shut you up? Jaden shrugged. Then they'll have to hear me louder. The group laughed, nodded. Jaden sat down among them. Outside, across the street, the black SUV was gone, empty. But inside a quiet office in a gray building uptown, a man sat at a desk. Gloved hands, blank expression, watching footage of Jaden's speech. Another agent walked in. Orders? The man in gloves didn't blink. Stand down. Why? Because sometimes, he said coldly, a kid becomes a movement. And movements? They're harder to kill.